Now I really feel like he will jump right back in that mix to challenge to start. Because, like I say, he wrote down a goal. I had my kids before we start just write down some goals for himself, and he wrote down a goal of his was to start against Georgia, and he earned that, and he did. He played very well. I wouldn't see it being any different. Coming out of spring, he wasn't a starter, and I told him that. One-on-one evaluation. Right now, you're not quite back. But that's where it's tough for us. You go recruit a guy and you coach the guy and you're very close to him, but you got to challenge him to get back. This is the real world, And so, but Carlos will have the same opportunity to go back and be that three technique as anybody else. It's the same as Josh or Deshaun could be the nose if Grady decided to sit on his laurels and think he's right, which he's not going to do, but. That's our challenge, is not to let that happen. But Carlos will be very much in the mix, and you might see him and Grady start against Georgia. So I think he's ready now for that.
I know it matters to them, self-pride and so forth, but as a coach, when you've got a litter of guys that you feel you can win with, does it matter to you personally who starts?
No, absolutely not. If you ever get into that, I think you ought to get out of this business. I really believe it. That's our challenge, and if I can't be totally objective to we're going to play the best guys, and so that's the reason I sit right here and tell you I think Grady has earned that. He's a starter. Those other guys, Josh had a good spring, Deshaun had a good spring, DJ started off a little rough and really finished strong, had a good strong after break. We only went 3 or 4 practices and then had spring break, finished really good that last part. And then with Carlos now having a good off season, getting back closer. When we finished spring, and I told him, like I said, he wasn't quite there. But it is good to have those guys that now they can go challenge each other. And they know it. Every day they go to practice. When we start August 1st, August 30th, we'll decide who's going to walk out there first.
Who's got that look coming out of spring that they're ready to break out? Because, again, Grady's been there before.
I don't really like to single guys out much, but DJ kind of does, because, like I say, Carlos started early last year, and DJ played some very good football for us and then ended up starting a couple of games, second half of the season, 2 or 3 games. Played really well, played well in the bowl game. So he's a guy that's got himself where we want him weight-wise, and he bought into that, hey, don't go up and down, get to this weight, get yourself comfortable with it. And, of course, he's not been involved in baseball, so he's made a commitment to football. Good baseball player, but he sees his future in football. But he's a guy we're looking for big things, as far as y'all know who he is, but to make himself what we think he can be.
Where's his weight now?
325.
DJ. One of the puppies, the intriguing guy, Scott Pagano. Any just some color on him?
Yeah, and just I think Scott, like I said, he got hurt in preseason. It was one of those injuries that maybe it had been better off he had broke it. He just tore everything all up in his ankle. And it was a very slow recovery deal. He was frustrated, we were frustrated, but Scott wasn't back full speed even to practice until 8th, 9th week, and so then he worked. Obviously, by that time, you're not going to play a guy because you got rotation going and you got some players, so you're not going to waste a guy's year. But even into spring practice, I felt like Scott was still getting back to full what he was when we started practice a year ago right now. Because I'm telling you, I'm telling them in the staff meeting, I don't know how we're going to keep this guy off the field. He plays hard. He's got a great heart. Doesn't like to lose, So I see Scott being a guy that works himself in a mix, and all of a sudden you got 3 guys gone after this year. And so then, you're sitting there and Scott will be a guy. But I think we'll see Scott get some quality snaps this fall.
A year or so ago, your guys really embraced the role of the no-name defense. Do you have to change your mental approach with them to kind of keep them grounded now that everybody knows their names?
Well, I don't know if everybody does or not, but we talked about that some when we started spring, because 2 years ago, I wrote on the board, that we're the weak link. That's what the head coach told the whole football team. So then last year, I kind of put on the board, are you what you say you are? We played a year, we got some experience and that. And so this year I said, you guys have some input into it, but think about, somebody asked early, do you feel like you can be the strength of the team? And I think they have embraced that. And as much listening to Coach Batson as anybody, because from the day we're done with spring practice, we don't go on the field with them. And Joey Batson and his staff does a great job of getting those guys ready to go. But sitting down visiting with the Grady and Deshaun and those guys, I think they have embraced that role. And so, it's yet to be seen how they do. It's one thing to say, and it's something else to do. But through spring practice, I didn't see any sense of satisfied that we won 11 games, that we won a BCS game. I didn't sense that. And you can sometimes sense that maybe they're satisfied a little bit, but I don't think this group is. I think they know there's bigger, better things out there for them, and so they'll go prepare for that.
Is the idea of trying to win